Hi, it's Miss Melissa with the Oosterhout Library in the next edition of Harvard Me by Jacqueline Woodson, published by Penguin Books. Tiago is going to talk about food today, so I found a Spanish language cookbook on our shelves. I know it has Dora on the cover, but it doesn't look like it's for real little kids. So check it out when the building reopens. Chapter 28. On Friday, Esteban was still gone. Amari came into the art room saying, "The great imperfect world continues to spin on a slant." He threw his arms up like he'd just said something amazing. We just looked at him, waiting for him to say something else, but he didn't. He took his seat, looked over at Esteban's empty spot by the window, and took out his markers. Tiago reached for the recorder. We all froze, even Amari, his drawing pad halfway out of his backpack. The colored markers gathered in a rubber band on his desk. Maybe for a millisecond, the world stopped spinning. Maybe Esteban, wherever he was, turned toward the art room and smiled. "Can I record myself today?" Tiago asked. The four of us nodded, our mouths slightly open. He pressed the record button, cracked his left knuckles with his right hand, and started talking. "So now it's almost winter time, right? And we've been coming here for so long, I feel like I know you guys, and you're sort of like my brothers and sisters, and I know I can trust you, right?" We all nodded. "I feel like there's love in this room. I know that sounds corny, but I feel it." He hit his chest. "I feel it right here, like we care about each other." Even Esteban. Tiago kissed his pointer and middle finger and raised them in the air. Wherever he is, he's our brother and he's our friend, and a part of him is in this room. We kissed our own fingers and raised them into the air, nodding. "I want to tell you the story of Perito. He was my dog. He was part Doberman, part Labrador. He was the best dog. He was my best friend. He spoke Spanish and English. Sometimes when Miss Laverne asks us to write in class, it's hard for me. The words don't want to come. I see you guys all writing, and I want to do that too. But the words I write want to come out in Spanish, not English. And people are always saying, 'Speak English, speak English.' Not you guys. When you see me and Esteban talking in Spanish, you just say, 'Teach me.' You don't say mean things. Once, when me and my mom were walking down the block speaking in Spanish, this guy yelled at us, 'This is America. Speak English.' But I'm from Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico is part of the United States of America, too. So Spanish should be American, right?" We all agreed. Amari was drawing, but he kept nodding with the rest of us. Tiago's quiet was beginning to make sense to us. "But me and my mom didn't say anything," Tiago said, "because that guy was big and he looked mad. If Perito had been with us, I bet that guy wouldn't have said anything. Perito was big too, and the Doberman part of him was mad protective of us. When me and my mom got to the next block, we started talking again, but my mom was whispering, and I was sad that that guy with his red angry face made my mom quieter. The four of you guys," he pointed to me, Ashton, Holly, and Amari, "you guys only speak English. And I'm not saying there's something wrong with that. But dude," Amari said, "Puerto Rico's a part of this country and you speak English too." "Yeah, I know," Tiago said, "but I only speak Spanish with my family. And in PR, even though we had to speak English and Spanish at school, I still like speaking in Spanish better." His voice dropped and he looked down at his hands. "Because I come from Puerto Rico, I'm safe. I don't have to worry. Not for myself and my family. Just for my friends." He stared at the voice recorder for a long time. "My mom, when she's at home, she loves to sing in Spanish. She talks in Spanish. She cooks in Spanish. It feels like she even laughs in Spanish because her smile gets so big. But when she goes outside now, she's very quiet, because she's afraid another person like that guy will look inside her mouth and see Puerto Rico there. Not the beach or the sparkling blue ocean, not the Asta and pastillos or the quinapás that are so sweet you can't stop eating them. She thinks they'll see her small town of Isabel, where her dad raised chickens, and on holidays her abuelo made arroz the old way, on a fire outside, and everybody begged for pago, the crispy rice that stuck to the bottom of the pots. She thinks people will say, "Go back to your country," even though this is her country. And it hurts her. It makes her sad and ashamed. Because if somebody keeps saying something to you, start believing it, you know. My mom has the past dreams of Puerto Rico and the future dreams of this place. And this place acts like it doesn't have any future dreams of us. In English, Perito means little dog. Our dog was just a tiny black puppy when we got him. He could almost fit in my hand, he was so small. Some people couldn't say his name right because you have to kind of roll your tongue to say the sound of the two R's together. Not everybody can do that. We all tried to do it, to say Perito, like Diego did. Only Amari could say it, though. I wanted to give him a name not everybody could say, Diego told us. I wanted to make him even more special than he already was. I could whisper it and he would come running. His hearing was crazy good. When people called his name in English, without doing the right thing with the R's, he wouldn't even lift his head. When he was dying last year, I put his head on my lap and I just kept petting him. I said his name real soft over and over and over. Perito, Perito, Perito. And he just kept looking more and more peaceful. And then his breath kept getting faster and faster, like maybe in his mind he was somewhere winning a race. And then his breathing stopped, and his eyes closed. And I put my face against his head, and I said, "You won, Perito. You won the race." And my mom let me stay like that for a long time. Just me and Perito's body in the quiet. Diego stopped talking. He had tears in his eyes, but he wasn't crying. Not really. We didn't look at him. It felt like it would be wrong to stare or say something. He was in his own world. He was back with Perito, his face on Perito. Ahead of them both, the finish line. "I know in my heart," Diego whispered, "the language we like to speak is music and poetry, and even cold, sweet paragas on hot summer days. It feels like this place wants to break my heart. Feels like every other day it tries to make my mom feel tinier and tinier, like the size of Perito's head in my hands." Chapter 29. The next week, just as we were getting ready to do math problems, Esteban walked back into our classroom. Ms. Laverne didn't even try to keep us from jumping out of our seats to hug him and slap his back and say, "Where were you? And we were so scared you'd left further, and is your dad home?" "He's still gone, in Florida," Esteban said, when we'd finally calmed down. "But he sent me another poem." Amari had his arm over Esteban's shoulder, and Diego was standing as close to him as could be. The rest of us had gone back to our seats, but we were all staring at E in wonder. It felt magical to have him back. It felt like we were almost perfect again. Miss Laverne asked him to come up to the front of the class to read the poem to us, and when Amari finally let go of him, he carefully removed a piece of yellow paper from between his notebook pages. His uniform was clean but wrinkled, and the dark circles under his eyes looked like they covered most of his face now. He looked skinnier, too. "We moved to live with my aunt in Queens," he said, "and one of my crazy baby cousins tried to eat this." He held up the poem. The edge had a tiny bite taken out of it. Esteban shook his head, but he was smiling. "I'm going to read it in Spanish first," Esteban said. He read, and even though I didn't understand the words, they were so beautiful they sounded like music, and I put my head down on my desk to listen better. "Now I'm going to read the English translation that I made for you." He looked at the five of us, then at Miss Laverne. He seemed older somehow, like he'd gone away and lived a whole life and then come back to us. And in the night, when the dog barks at shadows, tell him not to be afraid of what he cannot see, or the things he does not yet understand. There is mystery everywhere. Beneath rocks there is damp earth and an army of ants planning a revolution. Esteban stood at the front of the room, staring at the page. Then he lifted his head and looked at us. We cheered again, even louder this time. I don't know if any of us really understood his dad's poem, but for a long time after he'd finished reading, I thought about that army of ants, how they were coming together, like us. Chapter 30. And in the night, when the dog barks at shadows, tell him to not be afraid. In the cafeteria that day, Esteban asked if he could record the poems he had read to us. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow, he said, or the next day or the day after that. But I thought you were back, son, Amari said. Esteban looked down at his empty tray. He had eaten everything so fast, Amari handed over his milk, and I gave him my leftover beef taco. We don't know what's going to happen, he told us later when we got to the art room. They might be trying to deport my mommy, too, he said, and that's why we moved to my aunt's house. It's like my mammy has to hide now. But why? Ashton asked. Esteban shrugged. She's from the DR, too. My aunt, she was born here, and her husband is from America. My mammy says if she gets sent back, me and my sister can stay with my aunt, but I don't want to. He climbed up to his place by the window, but he didn't get quiet and stare out. He turned towards us and crossed his legs. When he did, I saw the holes in the bottom of his shoes. His socks, which were probably bright white when they were new, were grayish and barely covered his ankles. His uniform pants were too short now. I turned on the recorder and put it on my desk. Esteban nodded, repeated what he had just said, and continued. They took my pappy. They came to his job when he was leaving, and they said he didn't belong in this country. Maybe always in his heart he knew the day was coming. When I was little, he used to always say to me, "Every day is a blessing from God, Esteban. Even if it rains or gets so cold you can see your breath and think your own bones are going to break beneath your skin, this too is God's blessing." My pappy said, "One day your days are all gone, and then that's when you have nothing." I was probably a stupid little kid whining because I wanted a toy or an ice cream. I don't even remember. But now I know something. I know we had everything we needed. We had food every day, and coats and boots and warm socks and water. Before, you used to hear the word immigration, and it sounded like everything you believed in. It sounded like Feliz Compañeros and Merry Christmas and Welcome Home. But now you hear it and you get scared because it sounds like a word that makes you want to disappear. It sounds like someone getting stolen away from you. What's going to happen? Amari asked. Esteban shrugged. My mammy says you have to pay for lawyers and stuff to fight it, and we don't have money for that. I think we're all going to have to go back to the DR. And that would suck because I would miss New York and I'd miss all you guys. We sat there silent, all of us looking at Esteban. It felt like he was already almost gone, and we were trying hard to remember him. Chapter 31. After Christmas vacation, everyone returned looking a little bit different. But the thing that mattered the most was that Esteban had come back too. Diego came back wearing glasses, thin wire frames that he took off to show us how they caught the light and bounced rainbows around the room. They reminded me of my uncle's glasses. I watched Diego place them gently back on his nose. Years from now, I thought there'll be people who never knew Diego before glasses. Those are nice kicks, Ashton said, staring longingly at Holly's sneakers. Those are the ones I asked for Christmas, but I got these instead. Ashton made a face and held up his feet. His sneakers were white and cheap-looking, like the kind they sold at discount stores. And my mom started singing that "You Get What You Get" song when I complained. He put his feet down. You lucked out, Halls. It's not luck, Amari said. Holly's a rich girl. Everybody knows that. No, I'm not, Holly said. Don't start in on me, Amari. But Holly pulled her feet back like she was embarrassed by her sneakers. I'd gone with her and Kira the day she got them. Her mom took one look at the price and called on Jesus. Nobody in their house is religious, but for some reason that's what came out of her lips when she saw the price. But I love them, Holly said, and they can be one of my Christmas presents. Plus, those are what everybody's wearing. I waited for Kira to say what she always says to Holly. If everybody jumped off a bridge, but she didn't. I'm going to get those for you, she said really soft, so Holly had to stop tying the sneakers and look up to hear her. But I want you to know that everybody is not wearing them. I want you to understand what that means. Holly nodded. A look came over her as though the words were finding a room in her brain. Geez, Ma, I know that, she said. Sometimes I thought Kira didn't really know Holly like I knew her. Some days I saw her looking at her daughter like she couldn't believe they were related. But it wasn't Holly's fault that she had always known she could walk into a store and ask for expensive sneakers and get them. And Holly was really generous. Even when we were little, she made sure I had whatever she had, from candy to new comic books to time with Kira. She made her mom buy 2 of things and always had one waiting for me. I don't want to have this alone, she would say. It's not even a little bit fun. I wish I had such nice kicks, rich girl, Amari whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. He was not going to drop it. Delete you, Amari, Holly blurted out. Why are you even in my ear? You two just love to argue, I said. My uncle said that sometimes 2 people come into the world having the same fight they left the world having. Holly looked at me. What does that even mean? I pointed at her and Amari. You two. Maybe in another life you guys were having this fight. My uncle says people just keep getting reincarnated into each other's lives until they figure it out. Tiago laughed. You guys have been fighting since the days of the dinosaurs. I don't know. No offense, Amari, Holly said, but you better not get up in my next life. I don't even like you in this one. What's not to like about Amari? Ashton said. There's not really anything to not like about him. Yeah, Tiago said. He's not really. I mean, he's not really a bad guy. Not really. Remember the thing about Amari's name? Not really is one of the translations. The boys laughed. Even Esteban, who was sitting in the window seat watching the sleet come down. He had draped his Yankees jacket over his shoulders like a cape. Amari smiled. I shouldn't have ever told you all about that name, he said. But Amari wasn't really laughing with his friends. He was studying Holly. It dawned on me then, clear and loud as a siren, that it mattered to Amari what Holly thought about him. Her words had stung, and just like our tilting earth, Amari was off balance, hurt by her words. I touched Holly's arm. Couldn't she see it, the way Amari's face had dropped? You don't really not like him, Holly. I tried to get her to look at me, to see me pleading with her. She shrugged. The room got eerily quiet. Before I could say anything else, Holly said, Nobody chooses where they get born or who they get born to. Maybe my parents are rich, but that doesn't mean I am. I mean, I am now, I guess, but... Holly looked up at Amari. It's not my fault. I don't think Miss Laverne wanted us to not like each other in this room, Tiago said. I think she wanted us to get closer, not more far away from each other. Holly picked up her knitting needles. She knitted slowly, like her mind was someplace else. Her feet were still tucked beneath her chair. If anybody in this room wanted these sneakers, I'd give them to them. My uncle says our lives are like dashes, from birth to death, and each day is a new dash, another day, another chance. I wanted to tell him that people are dashes too. each a tiny bit of connection to the next. "I don't like when you call me a rich girl, Ma," she said. Mari shrugged. "Then I don't any more. That's all you had to say. You didn't have to come at me all mean and whatnot." "Dash to dash," my uncle would say. Holly to Amari, me to Holly, Perito to Tiago, Esteban to his father, Amari to Ashton, Miss Laverne to all of us. My uncle said when people come together and they all care about the same thing, it's called a harmonic convergence. He said all that energy together can shift a whole planet. The sleeting stopped. The sun came out. "We good?" Amari asked. And Holly said, "Yeah, Amari, we're good." Chapter 32. "How come you haven't talked about your dad in the art room?" Holly asked me. It was Friday night and almost 9:30. My hair was washed, oiled, and cornrowed. Kira had finished it while me and Holly ate spinach pizza at the kitchen table. Now Kira had gone off to a movie with Holly's father, and the babysitter was downstairs asleep on the couch. How many Fridays had I spent in this house, on this room? So many I had lost count. If someone spun me around 100 times and drove me all over Brooklyn, then walked me back to Holly's house, I would know it. I would know the smell of it, oil soap and fireplace wood. I would know the sound of it, a creaking fifth step between the second and third floor, creaking banister between the first and second. And if Kira held out her hand to me, I would know it was hers by the softness of her fingers, the length of her nails, the many, many times I'd felt its weight on my head. We were sitting on Holly's queen-sized bed, combing her doll's hair. Holly had white everything on her bed, sheets, comforters, pillowcase, because she had insisted on dark purple walls. Kira wouldn't say yes unless everything else in the room was white. On the floor beside the bed was a round white shag rug. The doll I had was wearing a green nightgown. Holly's doll was in overalls, and we had already changed their outfits twice already. The dolls all had stories and books that came with them about how they had gotten to be true Americans. They were expensive, and while Holly had all of them, I only had one, a doll who had escaped slavery and gotten free in Philadelphia. We could go months without even looking at the dolls, and then other times we played with them for hours. "You haven't told them about your dad or your mom," Holly said. "Are you going to?" She stopped braiding her doll's hair and looked at me. "But I do talk," I said. "I talk into the recorder at night, in my room. I'm on there, too." "I don't know," Holly said. "I don't know if that's fair for everyone. Everyone else is spilling their guts, and you're talking in private. Are you ashamed of your life?" "No, of course not." But Holly kept looking at me. She blinked slowly. "I don't have anything to be ashamed of," I said. "Then how come you don't talk about your dad? Or tell them about your uncle? All the time Amari has called me rich girl, you just sat there." "What did you want me to say?" Holly shrugged. "No, Holly, tell me. What did you want me to say?" "I wanted you to say, I'm a rich girl, too." "But I'm not." Holly shook her head. "I'm not." I felt my voice getting high. "Haley, listen to me. Your uncle owns that whole building you live in. He drives a nice car. He works at home doing tech stuff when he wants. But he doesn't have to. Not like my dad. Not like Amari's dad or all the other kids' parents either. When your grandparents died, they left your uncle and dad all that money. When your mom died, they put all the insurance money in the bank for you. When you turn 21, you get it." "How do you even know this?" I said. "I mean, I knew some of it, like the building and stuff, but I never thought of us as rich." "Your uncle and my mom talk, I guess," Holly said. "That's how. Grown-ups tell each other things, and then they talk to other grown-ups, and sometimes us kids are around listening." I never said anything. Didn't say anything. It felt strange. Weird. Rich? My uncle never bought me expensive clothes. We never went on fancy vacations, and most of our furniture was stuff my uncle had found on thrift shops. He found the coffee table on the street. One leg was shorter than the other 3. Holly put her doll on the pillow and leaned against the wall behind the bed. I'm not trying to be mean to you, Haley. I know sometimes it sounds that way because I just say stuff. I know you're not being mean, I said, but I kept my eyes on the doll. Her tiny earrings sparkled. I think sometimes, Holly said slowly, as though the idea had just now come to her, life gives you stuff you don't want, but you have to take it anyway. Like my hair, I said, or what happened with my mom and dad. Holly nodded. Yeah, but your hair is amazing. And all the stuff you know is amazing, Holly. After a minute, after thinking about what she said to me about being rich, after knowing that she was right and that maybe somewhere, buried with a lot of other stuff, I knew it too, I said, and you make us think. Holly shrugged, then grabbed up a bunch of her braids with both hands. But sometimes my mouth hurts people too. Like I hate it that I can't stop it from saying things, and I can't stop my body from jumping up and moving around when Miss Laverne tells us to stay in our seats, Holly said. Sometimes I just want to be regular. But you're not regular, you're Holly. I love your big mouth and your jumpy body, and how you make us all laugh. In a good way. Holly got up from the bed and started walking fast back and forth across the room. I used to think art started mostly because of me and you, she said. I know that's crazy. I mean, think about it. She stopped pacing and looked at me. If I hadn't met you, it wouldn't be the six of us. We're lucky the way we all got dropped in there, the way we all ended up in Miss Laverne's class together, right? And it all happened because A, B, and C happened, and that led to D, E, and F, and so on. And basically your life is the whole alphabet. And the alphabet is people meeting people, leading to other people meeting until we're old. And then we die. Or sometimes we're not old and we die, I said quietly. Yeah. Holly climbed on the bed and put her arms around me. That's true, too. I'll talk, I said, next Friday. And I'll be right there with you, okay? Holly said. That night, as always, we slept with our backs to each other, our spines always touching. You probably recognized the dolls and books that they were talking about, the American Girl books. There's lots of those available on the Cloud Library app, and also here on our shelves when we get back to the library building. I hope to see you there soon, and next time we'll continue Harbor Me.